Joe Francis, what a miserable little...
Joe is out of control.
He's been a fugitive for a decade now.
When you think of Girls Gone Wild, you may think of something that shaped how we viewed women, sexuality, and fame in the early 2000s. But when I think of Girls Gone Wild, I think of me being a young child, waking up in the middle of the night, seeing these infomercials of girls lifting up their shirts and being like, oh my God, my dad is going to kill me if he sees that I'm watching this. But also I'm intrigued. A few weeks ago, I was watching the 2010 film Piranha, and it hit me. The women on that movie, on spring break, partying, carefree, shaking ass and titties, just having a good old time, felt like carbon copies of the girls in those infamous Girls Gone Wild tapes. I did what anybody else is doing when they watching a movie. I did my Girls Gone Wild and Joe Francis deep dive rabbit hole Wikipedia search, and was surprised but not really about all of the legal trouble that the Girls Gone Wild Entertainment Company and Joe Francis was in throughout the years of the height of that company. I thought nothing of it, then kept it pushing. And then almost serendipitously, this documentary dropped.
Did you imagine that one day you'd be sitting in a chair to talk about Girls Gone Wild?
I figured at some point I get a knock on the door.
It blew my mind what Joe Francis was able to convince these young girls to do.
If I took no for an answer, I wouldn't be where I was.
It's like the universe wanted me to revisit a part of pop culture that wasn't just unhinged, it was insidious. Girls Gone Wild wasn't just about women flashing their boobs for cameras, okay? It was about predatory behavior, unchecked power, and the exploitation of women, all wrapped up in a shiny late night infomercial. This documentary doesn't just unpack the rise and fall of Joe Francis. It reveals how systems of power and complicity allow predators to thrive, drawing parallels to other big figures in the entertainment industry. And today, platforms like OnlyFans redefine how women profit from their image. It's worth asking, what's changed and what hasn't? Buenas, bitches. My name is daljiimarax. On this channel, I like solo traveling, I like to learn languages, and I like to talk about culture. Recently, Peacock dropped a documentary, Girls Gone Wild, The Untold Story. It goes into detail about this porn empire and Joe Francis's cultural impact and his legal troubles. What I'd love to dig in with this video is the impact of Girls Gone Wild today and back then. How this man was able to have all of this success and power along with all of these legal troubles, and where do we go from here? So let's get into today's video essay, The Untold Influence of Girls Gone Wild in Public Exploitation. Joe Francis presented himself as a classic rags to riches story, an ambitious filmmaker who capitalized on America's obsession with unfiltered party culture. But this narrative was carefully created to inflate his own mythos. The truth? Joe's ascent to millionaire status was built on opportunism and a keen sense of how to exploit voyeurism. His initial inspiration came from observing women at events like Mardi Gras. Women would flash their boobs and basically do anything kind of sexual strictly for beads. He realized there was a market for filming uninhibited behavior, particularly younger women caught in moments of intoxication or peer pressure. What most people saw as women just having a good time on the weekend for a great celebratory, tradition, he saw that as money signs. His business model was simple: package these moments in tapes and sell them as fun and carefree. And let me tell you, the results were insane. He sold $20 million worth of tapes in just the first 2 years of Girls Gone Wild. Okay, motherfuckers was horny. But this meteoric success happened without much scrutiny early, setting the stage for darker revelations to come. In the beginning of the documentary, they talk about how Joe and the team specifically sought out small-time girls. Girls with less media experience, who were on like spring break trips, were often intoxicated or otherwise unaware of how the footage was going to be used. The goal wasn't just to document wild behavior, such as women flashing their boobs. It was to create situations where coercion and manipulation blurred the lines of consent. That's what was selling, because you could get titties anywhere in regular porn. Like, that wasn't really that popping. It was like, how do we get these women to say yes? How much do we have to say? How much alcohol has to be involved? How much music and fun? Like, what can we do to get these women to do whatever. What do we have to do to get these women to do whatever we tell them to do? That's what you bought when you purchased those Girls Gone Wild tapes. Francis's infamous directive, never take no for an answer, revealed the systemic nature of his exploitation. Women were often plied with alcohol or pressured with high-stake party environments. There was no meaningful vetting process, even though they said later on they had to sign a disclaimer saying that they're 18 and they consent to it. But child, please. The tapes were frequently featured footage where consent was dubious at best. Fast forward to today, we see plenty of parallels with this when it comes to Instagram and OnlyFans. You know, these are places where individuals are incentivized to commodify themselves for views, followers, or money. The attention economy, much like French's model, continues to capitalize on the exploitation. You may be thinking, no, this is different. These are people that are posting these things themselves. They are doing it. Nobody's forcing them to do it. But let me stop you right there. A lot of the people that do these things are younger people. And when you're young, you're not necessarily thinking about the lasting effects. You just want to have a good time. You're thinking, this is something I'm doing now. I'm young, I'm hot, I'm popping. Let me just do this. You're not thinking about down the line how this can follow you forever. I get we have a bit more media literacy and understanding that the internet is forever. But when you're young, some things just go in one ear and out the other. More on the predatory practices of Joe Francis and the Girls Gone Wild, empire. He would literally tell his camera people or everybody involved in vetting the women and getting them to perform these sexual acts on camera, unless it's like a hard hell no, do whatever you got to do. Sometimes they would get paid a couple dollars, maybe a couple $100 here and there, a lot less. They would get free t-shirts, free merch, things like that. Or they would just kind of, talk to them and try to make them feel good about themselves and flirting with them. Like, they would just do whatever it was possible. They would tell them, bring your friend with you, then maybe you'll feel more comfortable that way. Basically, just do whatever you got to do to get a yes, and even if it's not a yes, if it's not a no, let's work with it. We'll figure out how to edit it into the footage to get it on the tape. It was really strictly just putting everybody involved, not just the girls, in the most uncomfortable position as possible to get the best footage to sell these tapes. I mean, people in this documentary express that either Joe or other staff members, they all kind of felt like this was wrong. They all kind of felt like, I'm really just lying to these women and making them drink more alcohol and giving them drugs and doing this, that, and the third for this tape. This don't feel right. But a lot of people were either money hungry, they had to have a job, they needed a job, they needed this money, or they were young and dumb themselves. A lot of the people in this, not a lot of people in this film, but a couple of the people that were being interviewed in this film said they were young. They were at the beginning of their career. So they might not necessarily know the ins and outs of what's the norm in the entertainment industry versus what is this man, he's just crazy and just going too far. So it wasn't just as black and white as everybody knew this was wrong and just kept doing it. There were a lot of, things that factor into this. Not to be on these people's side that contributed to the exploitation of these younger women, but I can understand how it's hard to stand up to your boss. Specifically when we talk about the entertainment industry in Hollywood, the lines of like HR and protocols and safety and things like that and following the law, those are all blurred. Because it's like, who you going to report to? This isn't a corporation where you go to your head HR person. Your HR is the police, and we're going to get into them later. But there's that. And again, like I said, these people were also young. So they don't want to risk being blacklisted or not, understanding like this is just the way the entertainment industry is. They're new to this. So maybe they thinking this is just the norm. This is just how shit goes in the entertainment industry. And again, they're young. They don't want to be in an uncomfortable position where they might piss their boss off, because a lot of people have said they've seen the wrath of Joe. It just gets crazy. I don't want to go on a tangent too much because we got a lot to talk about, but like, in a way, I understand how some people kept quiet about what was really going on behind these tapes, because this is a sticky situation on everybody's part. What's central to this Girls Gone Wild documentary is Joe's refusal to take accountability for his part. He has repeatedly deflected blame, comparing himself to other moguls such as Jeff Bezos and even Nelson Mandela, like what the hell, and positioning himself as just this misunderstood entrepreneur, and everybody's just out to get him because he's rich and successful and everybody just wants a piece of him. Boy, please. But his denial of harm is hard to square with the numerous allegations of abuse and coercion. I mean, talk about a man that has been accused of some of the most heinous crimes ever and continues to flourish and still have a lot of supporters. When I finished this documentary, I wanted to simplify, oh, this is just white supremacy. This is just a white man, a rich white man that is just powerful and this and the third. But then again, there are people of other ethnic groups and genders who have a reputation, public and private, of being evil people, basically. Whether that means just being mean, whether they are abusers of some sort to their staff, to other individuals, like they just straight up are just morally not good people, and they continue to flourish. And a lot of those people tend to be in either just entertainment or just any high position in general. In one infamous case with Panama City local law enforcement, they failed to act decisively, allowing Francis to continue on with his shenanigans. They tried to take him down for a RICO, and the law enforcement didn't, and everybody involved just didn't handle that case well. They dropped the ball. They didn't really have the resources and the right tools necessary to handle this case, when it should have been, they should have just focused on the fact that there were minors in these tapes. Because how they were able to get Joe Francis down the first time was they were able to seize tapes that they were able to identify at least 30 women, 30 girls, let me make sure I'm seizing girls, minors that lived in the area. So they should have went with like, hey, you got minors in the sex tape, that's child pornography. But they went with a whole RICO, and it wasn't happening. So he was able to be set free and continue his shenanigans. And in the middle of that, he used those confiscated tapes, because he had copies of everything, to kind of like release them as seized by the police. He created a whole theme about, this is so great, you got to get it because the police seized this footage. That sold and went crazy. So it's like, this man the whole time is pretty much unfazed by all of the legal trouble he's in. Because I mean, look at him, he's kept getting away with it. It's not like I don't understand why. But police complicity and enablement allowed him to act with impunity. Much like Epstein, Weinstein, people like that. People in these high places, when they know that they can just get away with it, they're going to act like that. Even when employees at the Girls Gone Wild company reported moral conflicts, accountability came too little too late, child. Joe got away with it, so it makes sense why he talked so much shit and walked around like his shit don't work. Because it don't matter who tell on me, it don't matter what y'all confiscate, it don't matter how many times I get arrested, I'm still going to keep it pushing, and I'm still going to sell these tapes. He was extremely influential and powerful, and he didn't have a problem that money just couldn't erase. The Girls Gone Wild empire left a complex legacy in the world of media and pop culture. Joe Francis in this documentary said that he kind of paved the way for figures like the Kardashians, arguing that his tapes normalized the sexualized celebrity branding that dominates modern media. And to some extent, he is right. Girls Gone Wild reflected and shaped a societal shift towards mainstream sex and blurring the lines around consent. In the first season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Kris Jenner, being the mama-sure that she is, that will do anything to exploit her children, included, for a coin, is literally on the phone with Joe, talking about, oh my God, we got to get you out of jail. I support you, blah, blah, blah.
Hello?
Chris, hey, it's Joe Francis.
Joe Francis! Where are you, honey?
I'm in jail.
You're still in jail?
I'm still in jail. I can't believe it.
Oh my gosh, Joe, we need to come get you out. I'm coming over there. What can we do?
Well, we're launching the line for the new action page for Girls Gone Wild swimwear. And I want the girls to possibly be the spokesmodels.
Oh, wow.
I'd like to do billboards, a print campaign, and this is like a huge thing.
It sounds really exciting. I just can't believe you have time to do this from jail. But
Well, there's not much to do in jail.
sometimes people have a negative connotation about Girls Gone Wild, but this bikini line is so fabulous. High-end couture bikini line.
I'd like to send you guys down to my house in Puerto Vallarta.
Oh my God. That would be so great. I think all of us could use a trip to Mexico.
Today we see echoes of his exploitation in the influencer economy and platforms like OnlyFans, where the commodification of one's body is normalized. The question is, what has this taught us about where the commodification of one's body and exploitation in the digital age? The question is, what has this taught us about consent, power dynamics, and exploitation in the digital age? Even platforms like OnlyFans, which are behind a paywall, they aren't that secure. People can still save and screen record your content and share it with whomever they want. We already live in a society where people don't respect sex workers. They don't see sex work as real jobs. They don't get any respect, that industry as a whole, even though everybody in some way kind of like engages in it. In addition, it is more than normal for women to have bathing suits, wear revealing clothing, dressing and dancing provocative. Damn, I sound like a conservative boomer. All on the internet. Just for likes and follows. Like, am I right or am I right? And most of the time, a lot of people aren't getting paid for it. I know it looks like everybody's rich on the internet, but most people are not getting paid for it. At most people are getting free products. At most. And weirdos in their DMs. And just like the girls on the Girls Gone Wild tapes, a lot of them would say, often sickos would come up to them and say the most disgusting things. And it's just weird, So I'm going to have to give Joe one thing. He has 110% contributed to women being sexual in media and in non-traditional media, a thing. Like he has contributed to that. You just being able to scroll and see boobs and titties and ass just randomly, just like that, without having to go look for it really hard, However, that is not a good thing. That's not what I'm saying here. Because a lot of the times when he was getting dragged for his disgusting behavior, like coercing these women to do these sexual acts, he would say things like, well, they can say no, or what did they think we were going to do with a camera, or they willfully did these things, they could have just walked away, they didn't, nobody for, like, they would find some way to blame these young, often intoxicated, impressionable girls and women. And we see the same thing with women on OnlyFans. Lord forbid a woman on OnlyFans who does sex work at all on the internet, demands to be treated like a decent human being, even though she does sex work. A lot of the times people will drag her. She can get doxxed for that, for doing something like that. It just gets ridiculous. So he also contributed to a society where we kind of blame women for being harassed, for being doxxed, we kind of treat them like shit when everybody else is treating like shit. We treat them like shit for being treated like shit. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. Joe Francis was like many white, powerful, rich men in America. A dickhead. His public persona is a mix of arrogance, charm, and manipulation. Traits often associated with sociopathy. From his contradictory statements to his obsession with youth and beauty, emphasis on youth, we're going to get into that later, Francis presents as someone deeply disconnected from the harm he's caused. It's like in the Vampire Diaries where they kind of like tell you to turn your humanity off so you don't really have no emotions and you could just be cutthroat. You kind of there, but you not there. You know what I mean? This disconnection is evident in his personal life as well. Allegations of domestic abuse and his fixation with the Girls Gone Wild brand, even after his legal trouble, he is someone who thrives on control and visibility, no matter the cost. Francis isn't just a product of the Girls Gone Wild era. He embodies the darker currents of exploitation and unchecked power that persist today. For example, men like Diddy, R. Kelly, Epstein, Weinstein, In more, it was no secret that these were not good people. It wasn't like this was just like this untold he said, she said. A lot of people said they have seen footage with their own eyeballs of these men doing disgusting things. They have been in the presence when these men have done disgusting things. However, when you have so much power, when you have so much contribution to other people's happiness, and these people, it was like in these people's case, it was entertainment. When you pay so many people's bills, and it's just going to be hard for people to part ways with you. Because if you're so bad, why don't people just quit their jobs if they work for you? If you treat them so bad, why don't they just walk away? Why don't they just stop talking? Why don't they just call the police, huh? I wanted to be surprised by how many people liked Joe Francis and rallied around him after all these years and years and years of continuous legal troubles, basically for the same shits. I mean, Mario Lopez is all up and down his Instagram, so it looked like they besties. But then again, I think about the fact that Ted Bundy got married while he was in jail because people found that sicko charismatic. Like, the very people he oppressed, women, wanted all parts of him. Like, I don't know. I can't help to see the parallels with Joe Francis. You see what I'm saying? So after, the documentary, I had to do my digging, and here's what I found. He fled to the U.S., to Mexico, because he had some legal trouble with his wife. Well, they said this in the documentary. They have 2 daughters who he hasn't seen for years, according to his Instagram. She posted in 2020 footage of him allegedly abusing her, and she fled back to the United States with her daughters. So that sucks for the daughters to be in a situation like this. He is constantly hanging out with Mario Lopez. That's like his bestie. He has so many fucking photos of the Kardashians and talking about them being young, how beautiful they were when they're young. Young, 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 young. He's a sicko. Like, every single picture of them he mentioning something about their beauty and them being young. There's even a picture of him he posted where he was at Kylie Jenner's. He's taking a picture with Kylie Jenner, and he's reminiscing about being with her during her 18th birthday party. Why would Kris Jenner allow a grown-ass man to celebrate her daughter's 18th birthday? The same woman that allowed her to date an older man while she was a minor. That's pretty disgusting to me. Yuck. Just based off his Instagram, it's no surprise why he has so many minors in his Girls Gone Wild tapes. He's sick. Yuck. Look at it. If you have time, go to his Instagram. It's all about people being young. All the women are young. Something about that. He loves that word. Youth, young, adolescent, not legal. Yuck. I'm just hoping that this documentary gets him in prisons because he deserved it. He should have gone away a long time ago. He should have not been able to be this successful and powerful for this long. It's just trifling. And I hope that these women get justice. More than ever, I hope these women get justice because they failed at every stop of the way to try to get justice because the justice failed them. The justice system failed them over and over and over again. And that's sad to see. Like, some of these women have been haunted their whole lives for the past 20 years because of these tapes. I feel bad when his daughters are old enough to see the kind of disgusting monster that their father is. Like, I always hate when evil people have kids. Like, yuck. Now you gotta be intertwined with this. I'm happy his wife was able to get away because allegedly she was being abused. So if that's the case, I'm happy she is, able to get away to safety. That's beautiful. So basically, I want no parts of Joe Francis. But to go to the, Girls Gone Wild part of this documentary, here's my thoughts on that. Adult industry as a whole, I feel like there's blurred lines because it's very evident that this wasn't 100% consent in these videos. There's no possible way that all of these women had in their mind, knew for a fact, okay, this is something that millions of people are going to see forever, and they could recognize me in the grocery store. And all these people got recognized in school because they were minors. It's like there wasn't a clear thought. You're not thinking right when you're young, when you're on spring break, when you're drunk. I've been there. I've been in college before. You're just having a good old time. So the ramifications, I'm sure they weren't thinking about them. I think that's just porn in general. I think there's always some type of like, was this consent, or was it just like, we're gonna pretend like this is normal type shit? You feel what I'm saying? The whole concept of it, it's like you have to be sick in some way to enjoy it, because it's like he said, he was selling coercion. He was selling almost the R word. Can I say that word on YouTube? I don't know. Because again, titties are everywhere. It wasn't about the titties. It was about, oh my God, these men are getting these women to do whatever. They're getting them drunk. They're begging them. They keep telling them this and that third. Keep telling them all these things. Like, it's sick. I expect young people to really be in their right mind. As much as people like to say being old doesn't bring you wisdom, it does. And like, I know people when hate saying old people is always being like, yeah, whatever. But like, ugh, I don't know. It just disgusts me that this was able to be so successful, and this man had legal trouble for basically the same thing for years and years and years and years, and nobody is turning against him and being like, yo, you're sick, somebody's got to do something about you. Everybody's were like, hey, I'm having a good old time, I'm partying. Why do I keep getting surprised by white powerful men not having enemies? I think we as consumers need to be more picky with how we consume adult entertainment. We need to see sex workers as human beings in the same way we see any other type of fucking worker, because they are, and they deserve respect. And they don't deserve to be treated like objects. They're people, and we have to stop supporting evil men like this when applicable. This includes calling out their wicked behavior, getting ourselves out of these situations if we can. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these people that were working with Girls Gone Wild were very young, so it's like, it's a sticky situation to be calling out your boss when everybody's kind of like going with the flow, and there's not really a HR in Hollywood. So if you can get out of it, and you can snitch, and you can go up to the next higher power, let's get that done. Because as much as the law enforcement, the law failed these women, so did the people who worked for Girls Gone Wild. They failed these women as well. Everybody was complicit the entire time, for the most part. He has created a culture. He has contributed to creating a culture where you can walk up to a stranger with the camera in their face and pretty much get them to do all type of unhinged things for likes, for free things, and for money. And then later on, when they feel like, hey, I wasn't in my right mind. This actually isn't something I'm okay with anymore. Oh well, fuck you. Too late. He contributed to that, and it's not okay. It's sick. The Girls Gone Wild story is a cautionary tale about power, exploitation, and society's willingness to look the other way. It forces us to ask the hard questions. Why do we continue to celebrate individuals who harm others for profit? What are the implications of the media we consume, and how we hold powerful predators accountable? As we reflect on Joe Francis' empire and its parallels to the digital landscape of today, one thing is clear: accountability isn't just a buzzword, it's a responsibility we all share.